Hi there, Mr. Automation is back. Today, again on PowerShell modules, but the easy way. I already created a video and it was okay, so to speak, but perhaps I can extend that a little bit. I also looked at YouTube and there's a lot of videos around on how to create PowerShell modules, but I also noticed that a lot of them are quite complex and perhaps I can make it a little bit easier to understand and not go into much detail about the modules. So let's start. Yes, I'm recording. It's very important, of course. So yeah, let's go to the slide. So the agenda for today, I'm creating a simple video. You know, there's many complex videos around, so that's the reason why I'll create this. Why modules? I'll explain that. We're going to have some examples with the normal script, a script with the function, an example with the module. We import that module from a random spot. We will extend the module with some functionality, and we import it for availability in all PowerShell sessions. And we try to import it as well on only your private sessions. Let's see if we get there. Don't want to make the video too long. Yeah. So why modules? Now, basically, if you detect yourself repeating yourself in code, that's always a trigger to modularize, so to speak. And you can do that with the function, of course. You know, if you only use it one time in one script, you can create a function, of course, that works fine. But if you're repeating yourselves in other scripts, for instance, so you create like a nice function for some logging, you have that inside of your script, and it works very fine. And then you create your next script, and then you need to copy that function over again, and then you start again, and then at some point you change your logging function inside of one of the scripts, and the other script is still using the old version, of course. So it's that's repeating yourself. So if you detect doing that, then really you should switch to a module approach, and it will make your life easier for sure. It can be shared amongst other scripts. You can put it on a network share for broader access, so even other systems and other scripts can access your modules, for instance. And if you are already creating functions that you are reusing, you should switch to the module approach. Keep in mind, if you change a module and that module is used by a lot of other scripts, and you screw up the function inside of one of those modules, you will affect all the scripts that use that specific function from that module. So keep that in mind. There are some caveats there. You don't have that, of course, if you have like a module in each script of yourself, then that is a self-containing function, so to speak, so that it doesn't get modified when you modify a module. So keep that in mind. The module, if you modify it for everyone that uses that module. Enough explanation, I think. So let's go to the examples. So let's create a simple script, and I'll open a Visual Studio here and let me elevate it because I want to do some WMI stuff as well on the BIOS, and I think you need to elevate to be able to access those kinds of namespaces in Windows. So let me see, I just create an empty file here, a new file, doesn't really matter much. I will save that as PS1. Perhaps we'll give it a little bit more descriptive name. I'll call it demo 60. It's the 60th demo I'm giving or something like that. So let's see. I prepared a little bit. See me type all the time. It's pretty boring. So for instance, you have a script that gets some information from the BIOS of your system. I'll run this a little for now, and you can see that inside of the BIOS variable, we now have some information there. You see that? So we only selected the manufactured version. And for instance, I'll copy a couple of lines over now. Don't want to make it too long. So now we get the operating system, for instance, so with the OS there, and then we have the services, so we can echo that to the screen. Just show you a couple of examples. Should move to a module or function for that. So we run this. And for instance, this top part, we're only focusing on the BIOS part for now. We comment all the other stuff out for now. And let's focus on that only. It's real estate, and I'll need to size this up as well. So let me do that now. Create real estate there. That one can close. Okay, perfect. So for instance, you use this function often inside of your scripts. Basically, every script you create, we need to type this whole bunch of this whole syntax again. And perhaps at some point you're interested in also another property, and then you need to modify a lot of scripts to cover that, so to speak, to cover that scenario. Because if you forget to add one property somewhere, that script will behave differently. The same goes pretty much for the operating system. So let's put that one as well here. So for instance, you often get the information from the operating system. I'll show you how it looks after clearing the screen. See, you get a lot of 64-bit, OS language. You get all kinds of stuff. It's Microsoft, probably something about Windows. Yeah, here it showed the caption. It's Windows 10. And for instance, you only want to know the caption, indeed. So you're only interested in that. And perhaps you have some scripts that use this input, right? You do always a query on the operating system, and for instance, based on the operating system, so based on the title of the operating system, you want to perform different steps in your code. For instance, you can have an installer that's not applicable for Windows 8, but it does work on Windows 10. You can, for instance, get the operating system and do an if statement on that value. If it's Windows 10, then run this, otherwise do nothing, right? And again, if you need to do this in every script, you're repeating yourself. So there is a better approach, and I'll show you what is a better approach. First, we create a function for it. So we create a function get BIOS for now. Get BIOS. We open and close that with no inputs, very simple. Remove that there, and we just do a return of the BIOS. Return BIOS. Okay. What you can do now is call that get BIOS function. So we all are a little bit more flexible already. Don't need to type that syntax all the time. And let's see what we get back if we actually run that. So now we have a function get BIOS. It's a lot shorter than this whole syntax here. Let's run this. Still you get the same result back. And by the way, I did the BIOS and we were interested in the operating system, so I'm not really fair here. Let's create another function, because we need to create that anyways. Get OS, and I'll show you as well why I do a get there. It's pretty important to note. If you do a get verb, you get a list here, and I'll pipe this to the grid view, then you can see it a little bit better. Let's say pipe to the grid view. Yes. Let's open that, and this is the approved verbs, so to speak. PowerShell is it's a strict language. You know, it's all about predictability. Don't want to create crappy functions, but my function or my BIOS, you know, it needs to be sensible. So get OS is sensible, and get is one of the allowed verbs, and it's very important if you write modules. So don't create your own verbs that are not allowed, because it's not allowed. So don't do that. Always stick to the list of verbs here. So you do add, a clear, a close, copy, enter, exit, find, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Whatever is applicable. So if you stop something, you use a stop dash and you give it a name. If you want to restart something, you call it restart dash and you give it your name. So keep that in mind, that you really need to stick to that convention. So what we can do now is get BIOS, and we can get the OS as well. Get OS. Okay. Let's run this. And before we run it, we still need to return something here. So we need to return the operating system here. We need to return the operating system here. And let's run this. So what we get back now is some BIOS information, and I would expect some information about the operating system as well. So let me run this again. Hang on. So there we have it. We can do a get BIOS, get the BIOS information back here. And we can do a get OS to get some OS information back. Can make another function, but I think you get the idea. So for instance, you want to use this get bias function in other scripts as well. It's pretty easy, to be fair, and it's really as easy as it is, by the way. I will open this on the left side. If you go to the file here, let me go to the file, reveal in Explorer. It's a little bit of a rubbish here, but it doesn't matter. So it's now called demo PS1, right? You see that? So if I call it PSM1, I'm going to change that. Let's see if that's allowed. Yes, this is allowed. Visual Studio didn't like that much, I think, but let's open the folder. Let's go to that file. So hang on, it's there. Let's go to there. A little bit messy, to be fair, but it doesn't matter. It's just a demo after all. So we have our demo here, our demo 60 PS1M module, and you can all remove all that stuff here. And if you now run this, it does nothing. It says, yeah, you cannot run the document in the middle of a pipeline, because basically it's now a module, it's not a script anymore. If you now create a new file, and let's save that to a little bit sensible name, save it as test1, very sensible, right? And what we can do now is import module, and then we can basically point to this this guy, and that is in my, I think you can do it this way, desktop. Doesn't want to work with me, doesn't matter. We copy this over, so we copy this PSM file, copy as path, and we import the module now. So now we have a script here, and the first line is we'll import the module. So now this module is imported in our code. What you can do now is we import that module. You don't see any error, but all of a sudden now we should have GetOS. See that? We have that now available, and it still behaves the same, of course. We can still do get bias. So what we basically did was move our functions to a module, and then you can import it from here. And I did now a little bit lame of an example. And let's go back first to the slides. Simple script, a little bit more advanced with the function. We did that. We ported the functions to module. We also did that. And we imported the module from a random spot. We did that. Now we're going to extend the module. Okay, fair enough. Now let's see if we can extend it. And I'm quite sure we can. So I will let it fail as well. So then you will learn some other tricks as well. I will let this fail on purpose. So bear with me a little bit, and this time we do something with the date. Yeah, that's a pretty nice one. Get MRB date, and I'll tell you as well why I do that, because there's already a get date commandlet available, and you cannot reuse that, of course. But since you need to start with get and then put your name behind it, so I'm still sort of safe there. And I'll show you as well what this piece of code does. It's very simple. What I do often in scripts, I generate a date like that, and it looks like this, like that. See that? I'll do it again. Right, like this. So I construct a date, and often I use this inside of a log file, for instance. So I'll show you as well how that works. So for instance, you have that variable now. What I often do is stick that inside of a log file, and then every time you start your script, you get a new log file. And how is a log file called? Always year, month, day, underscore, hour, minutes, seconds. So every time you run a script, you get a new log file. That can be handy for troubleshooting purposes. But again here, if you have another script, you want to use that same date again, and then every time you basically need to repeat this step inside of every script to get that date you want, or inside of your code. And of course, that's why we created this function. You can also do it with the function and just return the date here. So let's be clear here, do a return. Otherwise it will work as well, but it's not as neat. We're really returning something, so you need to be explicit on that one, I think. So we are returning a date here. What you can do now is, for instance, if we import this module, I'll show you. And I told you it will fail as well, and I know that it fails, so bear with me. And now we do get OS. Nice, that works. Do get BIOS, that works. And we did the get MRB, something like that. Let's see how we call that. Get MRB date. Right? We just added that to our module. And let's run that one. Hey, that's nothing. You know? How can that be? I'll tell you why. Because this module is already imported inside of this specific PowerShell session. And you see, and when you import the module, it's only available inside of that specific session. I'll clear the screen here, by the way. It's only available in that specific session. If you want to re-import it, because you run your script over and over again, you can specify -force. And what -force means that it always import the module. Also, when it already thinks it's loaded, because the import module just looks at this module and thinks, oh, I already loaded that, but it's not aware that we just added this new function. So let's import it now with a force. We did that, and let's now run our date function. I need to press the correct key, of course, yes, and there we get it. So now we get nicely our date back from that function here. And use your imagination, of course. I'm using very simple and lame examples, but I'm just trying to teach you the mechanism and don't want to make it too complicated. You can put whole scripts in here that return something, as long as you return something to the caller, or not even that is needed. Sometimes you call something and you don't need anything back, right? There's sort of a void in programming languages. You can do that as well. Just wait for the call when you do that. Let's see. Imported for all PowerShell sessions. Yeah, we did not do that yet, and I'll show you why that is handy. For instance, I launch a PowerShell shell here now. Right, so I just have a shell and I'm playing a little bit around, and I don't want to do get WMI object and then win32 and then underscore BIOS, and I don't want to do all that rubbish, so I just want to use my get BIOS function for that, right? I created that guy and it's inside of a module. So let me run that. Not recognized. No, indeed it's not. And why it's not available? Because PowerShell default looks in a specific location if there are modules there. And if there are, they will be imported on runtime. So if you add the module, you need to close your shell and start it again to get that module available inside of the shell. How do you do that? I'll show you. So we'll take our wonderful example here, our PS60 demo. Forgive me for the name, it's not the best name. And we go to the C program files, Windows PowerShell modules folder. And there are some rules here. It's not that strict, but you need to create a folder that has the same name as your module. So I call it demo 60. That's quite important. And inside of this you can put your PSM file. Right? Like that. Like that. So what we now can do, we don't need this by the way, this script anymore. What we now can do, because we put it inside of the modules, program files, Windows PowerShell modules, demo 60, demo 60.psm1. If you now open a PowerShell shell, I'll size this up a little bit, and we'll check which functions are inside of our module. For instance, get BIOS. It should be available here now as well, get BIOS. And it is. And yeah, just imagine the power behind this. And what you can do as well is put this module on a network share, on an SMB share somewhere, and just during the runtime of your script you can import that module still, then you import that locally, and then you can still work with all those functions. So then you can really write one function that is available for your whole organization now, basically. But keep in mind, if you break the module by correcting some incorrect code inside of a function, you break it, you introduce a bug. All scripts that use that module and function that will suffer from that for sure. let's see. I think this is it already. I don't want to make long and boring videos. Let me think a little bit more if I can make up of something else. Yeah, I found a quite interesting function, so perhaps it's a little bit more interesting to show as well. So I'll size this up a little bit and let's go to the specific function. So now we have a write to log. That's the module we have here, and I commented out the file. Doesn't matter, but it takes some input and it produces some output as well. And what kind of output? It does a write host, so it presents some information to the screen. And I use this function a lot. I also have it inside of a module. And yeah, let's save this guy and re-import it here with the force. And we need to do that import module demo 16, because it's called now like that because it's not that file anymore. Let's see. Yeah, that works fine. Now what we need to do is still copy that file over. I forgot that. I think I did not. Yes, so hang on, we do it differently. I'll put this one inside of there. Hang on. Do it a little bit differently. So open the module now inside of here and we add that function again. So let me copy that over. Not gonna type that whole function, of course. Not gonna waste your time with that. So here we have a write to log. It accepts some stuff. I'm not going to in any details. I saved it now. If I now go to my script here and we re-import that guy again, I think we also have write to log something, yes. And let's run that. And then it says a message. What do you want to write to the log? Mark is here. And then it says category. And I'll do error. Now we get Marcus here with the error. And for instance, this is now your script. You're going to do some magic. This script will do a lot of magic. And one of the magic things is write something to the log file, right? So we do write to log minus message, info message minus category info. And then we do two more. So we do a warning message and we do an error message. Error message. Yes, exactly. And we need to change that to warning and that to error. I'll show you why as well. Inside of this module, we're basically referring on the category. If it's an error, if it's a warning, or if it's info, then basically we write a different color message to the screen. Okay, so that's it. And if we now run the script with this imported module, of course, with this module containing that function, we can now run this and you see the output here. That's pretty nice. Huh? So informational green, yellow. So this is a little bit more sort of an advanced function, but you can stick that in the module as well. And basically you can add as many functions as you like. Don't say you should do that, but you can for sure. I would split it up a little bit, perhaps a module for logging, perhaps a module for some WMI stuff. I don't know, but I would not recommend to stick everything inside of one module, because if you make like a syntax error, you break it, you break everything. And if you do like small modules, you have some more flexibility there. Yeah, I'm quite satisfied about the video. So we go to the end slide. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in one of my other or next video.